It's that flow, no, she my flow. Yeah. It's that
The Irrationality of Alcoholics Anonymous. In the spring of 2012, J.G. decided to seek help. He lived in Minnesota, the land of 10,000 rehabs, people there like to say, and he knew what to do: check himself into a facility. He spent a month at a center where the treatment consisted of little more than attending Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. He tried to dedicate himself to the program even though, as an atheist, he was put off by the faith-based approach of the 12 steps, 5 of which mention God. Everyone there warned him that he had a chronic, progressive disease, and that if he listened to the cunning internal whisper promising that he could have just one drink, he would be off on a bender. J.G. says it was this message that there were no small missteps, and one drink might as well be 100, that set him on a cycle of binging and abstinence. He went back to rehab once more and later sought help at an outpatient center. Each time he got sober, he'd spend months white-knuckling his days in court and his nights at home. Evening would fall and his heart would race as he thought ahead to another sleepless night. So I'd have one drink, he says, and the first thing on my mind was, I feel better now, but I'm screwed. I'm going right back to where I was. I might as well drink as much as I possibly can for the next 3 days. He felt utterly defeated. And according to AA doctrine, the failure was his alone. When the 12 steps don't work for someone like J.G., Alcoholics Anonymous says that person must be deeply flawed. The Big Book, AA's Bible, states, "Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault, they seem to have been born that way." J.G.'s despair was only heightened by his seeming lack of options. "Every person I spoke with told me there was no other way," he says. The 12 steps are so deeply ingrained in the United States that many people, including doctors and therapists, believe attending meetings, earning one's sobriety chips, and never taking another sip of alcohol is the only way to get better. Hospitals, outpatient clinics, and rehab centers use the 12 steps as the basis for treatment. But although few people seem to realize it, there are alternatives, including prescription drugs and therapies that aim to help patients learn to drink in moderation. Unlike Alcoholics Anonymous, these methods are based on modern science and have been proved, in randomized, controlled studies, to work. For J.G., it took years of trying to work the program, pulling himself back onto the wagon only to fall off again, before he finally realized that Alcoholics Anonymous was not his only, or even his best, hope for recovery. The debate over the efficacy of 12-step programs has been quietly bubbling for decades among addiction specialists. But it has taken on new urgency with the passage of the Affordable Care Act, which requires all insurers and state Medicaid programs to pay for alcohol and substance abuse treatment, extending coverage to 32 million Americans who did not previously have it and providing a higher level of coverage for an additional 30 million. Nowhere in the field of medicine is treatment less grounded in modern science. A 2012 report by the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse at Columbia University compared the current state of addiction medicine to general medicine in the early 1900s, when quacks worked alongside graduates of leading medical schools. The American Medical Association estimates that out of nearly 1 million doctors in the United States, only 582 identify themselves as addiction specialists. The Columbia report notes that there may be additional doctors who have a subspecialty in addiction. Most treatment providers carry the credential of addiction counselor or substance abuse counselor, for which many states require little more than a high school diploma or a GED. Many counselors are in recovery themselves. Alcoholics Anonymous was established in 1935, when knowledge of the brain was in its infancy. It offers a single path to recovery: lifelong abstinence from alcohol. The program instructs members to surrender their ego, accept that they are powerless over booze, make amends to those they've wronged, and pray. Alcoholics Anonymous is famously difficult to study. No conclusive data exist on how well it works. In 2006, the Cochrane Collaboration, a healthcare research group, reviewed studies going back to the 1960s and found that no experimental studies unequivocally demonstrated the effectiveness of AA or 12-step approaches for reducing alcohol dependence or problems. The Big Book includes an assertion first made in the second edition, which was published in 1955, that AA has worked for 75% of people who have gone to meetings and really tried. It says that 50% got sober right away, and another 25% struggled for a while but eventually recovered. According to AA, these figures are based on members' experiences. In his recent book, The Sober Truth, Debunking the Bad Science Behind 12-Step Programs and the Rehab Industry, Lance Stote, a retired psychiatry professor from Harvard Medical School, looked at Alcoholics Anonymous's retention rates along with studies on sobriety and rates of active involvement, attending meetings regularly and working the program, among AA members. Based on these data, he put AA's actual success rate somewhere between 5 and 8%. That is just a rough estimate, but it's the most precise one I've been able to find. I spent 3 years researching a book about women and alcohol, her best-kept secret, Why Women Drink and How They Can Regain Control, which was published in 2013. We've grown so accustomed to testimonials from those who say AA saved their life that we take the program's efficacy as an article of faith. But think about it, how many celebrities can you name who bounced in and out of rehab without ever getting better? Why do we assume they failed the program, rather than that the program failed them? When my book came out, Dozens of Alcoholics Anonymous members said that because I had challenged AA's claim of a 75% success rate, I would hurt or even kill people by discouraging attendance at meetings. A few insisted that I must be an alcoholic in denial. But most of the people I heard from were desperate to tell me about their experiences in the American treatment industry. Amy Lee Coy, the author of the memoir From Death Do I Part, How I Freed Myself from Addiction, told me about her 8 trips to rehab, starting at age 13. It's like getting the same antibiotic for a resistant infection 8 times, she told me. Does that make sense?